Are you there?
Hello.
Testing?
We're there.
Okay.
That's there.
I just lost it for a minute.
Okay, we're there. And we are on the air.
Wow. Sorry about all those technical difficulties.
I want you to
It's
get
really
up
quiet,
now.
though.
It's real quiet.
I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and
Is
go to the
everything
window,
my voice is
open
really
it,
loud.
and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Good evening, folks. Sorry about the technical difficulties there on a Sunday evening. We are very happy to have you with us. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to come. We're going to give you all the late-breaking news of the week because I know everybody was disconnected because of Christmas. And there are things that you have missed. I'm Brian Smith along with
Carrie Smith.
giving it to you hot off the press. And
One thing we should start all of our broadcasts from now on, because of the fact that on iHeartRadio you can listen to everything and you can just skip to other episodes. We should start off by saying that it is December 28th, 2014. That way, right at the beginning of the show, people will be well aware of what they're listening to. Because a lot of times we'll be talking about all the news items of the week, and if you're not sure when this was recorded, you might be like, what are they talking about, and did this really happen this week? Well, it did happen December 28th, the week of. So hopefully you guys had a great Christmas vacation.
and that should tip you off that we're doing this
Right after
after Christmas.
Yeah. But we're going to wish you a happy new year.
To get it all set up and ready for January. Wow. We've been doing this for over 7, maybe 8 months now, and it's been religiously every single Sunday.
I don't think we missed one.
No, absolutely not.
Not
I
one.
was even asked that the other day, and they're like, you didn't miss one? No.
No.
Nope,
We've
don't
had
think so.
some interesting close calls, and
Kind of had a near mishap today, but
yeah, we had to go a little earlier, and I think we're going to start going earlier because we're not really 100% sure when this pops up on iHeartRadio. We used to go live at 8 o'clock on Sundays, and when we got onto iHeart, we were under the assumption that we were going to be real-time live, whereas because of the technology that we're dealing with,
boy,
It's-
is it.
we have to go through several middlemen.
And
Rectal feeding.
Hey, and I heard that was loud and clear. I'm glad to hear that.
hey, let's okay, let's get into
Let's
it.
get right into it.
You
Now
want
that
to
we're all
talk?
set
Well,
up.
you want to talk about? Let's start off with some breaking before we get into all the racist racism
I'm so
of the week.
sick and tired
Let's
of
talk
race
ab-
hustling.
Let's talk about the breaking news that and that will set MSNBC and CNN will get their numbers back up to the top
Oh, good.
where they used to be.
I mean, you need entertainment.
I mean, it's somber, but I'm putting a
Okay.
little lighthearted twist on it. But apparently, there's another Air Asia jet airliner.
No, that's CNN.
CNN.
Yeah, they have the exclusive rights on missing aircraft.
Okay.
So-
Especially in Asia.
Right, and here's the thing. Since nobody else is allowed to broadcast about the Malaysian Airlines. Or
Okay.
actually, this isn't Malaysian, is it?
This is Air Asia.
Air Asia. Well, any missing Asian aircraft. So CNN has to make up for it by talking about nothing except for the missing airline. And
Right.
that's why that happens the way it does.
Wow. And
That is very tongue-in-cheek, by the way.
absolutely. 126 souls missing. It doesn't look good, folks. I don't know what's going on with Asian airlines and jets.
Malaysian,
flying.
whatever. Yeah, it's weird.
It's not good.
Well, and the original conspiracy theory was that, well, I think these pilots may be of Muslim faith, and as such, they just took the plane and flew it to some neighboring Islamic country, parked it in a hangar hidden real well, to be deployed at a later date as a guided missile.
Right.
That's the conspiracy
And
theory.
if you don't believe that conspiracy theory, another conspiracy theory that I kind of one morning slipped like on a banana peel and fell down that rabbit hole for a minute,
Into the weeds.
called Sandy Hook. And
Oh,
the conspiracy
boy.
behind that. And the
Ooh.
fact that, well, it's not fact. It's not fact. But the people out there are saying that nobody died at Sandy Hook.
Yeah, they're like, where are the bodies or whatever.
Right, and it would have been... Okay, I don't want to get into details, but it
Right.
would have been a mess. Well, apparently this weekend, somebody had got a hold of some FBI files and made
course they did.
made it public that the FBI listed in 2012, has it listed in 2012, that nobody in the entire town where Sandy Hook Elementary is had ever died. There was no deaths.
Oh, that doesn't help. That doesn't help to squash any possible conspiracy theories.
I mean, how? If you're the FBI, how do you allow that to? How do you allow?
So you're
that to
saying it was a
slip?
paperwork error? Like somebody was like, "Oh, I forgot about the shootings." Whoops.
Right. Well, that, and then apparently Obama has multiple Social Security numbers, and nobody understands why that is either.
Oh, is that unrelated or related?
With conspiracy stuff.
Oh, because it was just a paperwork shuffling around.
Right.
Somehow
Well, I
he
mean-
ends up with a... That's funny that people say he cannot pass an e-check. Wait, his car. No, wait. What's it called? E-Verify.
E-Verify. And if
E-check.
E-check. and I will tell you
His
this.
limo failed the e-check.
I got this information secondhand, and I don't know if it works. So don't trust me, and if it's illegal, don't do it. I don't know if it is or not. But if you take the two middle numbers of your Social Security number, and if they're different numbers, and you flip them, you can actually create another credit file.
Yeah, I would highly not suggest that.
If you do it and do fraud with it, though, you're definitely in a lot of trouble.
Right, you will be in trouble, and do not try to blame that on Brian.
No, because that is the conspiracy of how Obama got multiple numbers.
Yeah, but I think the location, they say it's a Connecticut Social Security number.
But he was born in Asia. I mean, Hawaii.
Kenya.
Kenya's in Hawaii? Hawaii's
Well,
in Kenya.
That's what they will say when they try to defend themselves.
So it was a Hawaiian doctor in Kenya.
No. There is a city in Kenya called Hawaii. Anyway.
Woo-hoo. So now that we've got that out of
Now
the
that we cleared that up.
yikes. Let's you want to jump right into this thing full-fledged?
Yes,
hot and
let's
bothered?
jump right into it.
Let's go with this week. The whole thing with the cops in New York being disrespected by Eric Holder, Mayor de Blasio, Al Sharpton, Obama, everybody just dumping on the New York Police Department during the funeral of the two police officers that were shot point blank and murdered
By the media.
Yeah,
They're
by the
murdered
media.
By the media.
over a week ago, while Mayor de Blasio was giving the eulogy. Hundreds of police officers turned their back on him.
You know,
Hundreds.
I'm really proud of them for doing that, because my initial thought was, how are these people not striking? I'm talking nationwide, thanks to what the media is trying to do to our people that are serving our communities. That's what they do. They say protect and serve on most cop cars, and it's because they're just serving the community.
Right.
And without them, we would be, the civilization would get kind of chaotic.
Really chaotic. Well, I've got a montage clip of Eric Holder, Mayor de Blasio, and Al Sharpton, and this is the meat of it all, and this is what has sparked. Well, this is part and parcel of what's sparked all this racial tension, if you will, which is in the media. I don't see any racial tension in my town. But the
yeah,
media,
I'm always around people of all different races, and in real life, when you're dealing with people of other races, anywhere you go, I don't even feel any of this tension. It's all being drummed up in the media. But anyway, go ahead.
The national outcry we have seen speaks to a sense of
This is Eric
mistrust
Holder.
and mutual suspicion that can take hold in the relationship between law enforcement and certain communities. I wanted the people of Ferguson to know that I personally understood that mistrust.
okay, so that's
Hold on.
that's Eric Holder.
You may have to replay that because I may have mistook what he said. Did he say that there's an animosity between the police and the community? The whole community?
Yeah, I'll play the
The
part.
national
It's Eric
outcry
Holder.
we have seen speaks to a sense of mistrust and
Mistrust.
mutual suspicion that can take hold in the relationship between law enforcement and certain communities.
Certain communities.
I wanted the people of Ferguson
talking about
to
the
know
black
that I
community?
personally understood that mistrust.
Okay, the people
When
of
he
Ferguson.
says community, does he mean an actual physical community, or is he talking about like a black community or a white community?
Well, apparently, he invokes Ferguson, which
is a community,
is a community.
a physical community.
And he's saying that he understands their feeling of mistrust and
Animosity.
animosity. And the only people that I know that we've been shown on TV to have mistrust and talked about on the airways, the mistrust is black protesters against cops in Ferguson. And Al Sharpton, too.
Well, and
Al Sharpton has a lot
and
of
they will
mistrust.
also point out that this is a systemic, nationwide problem that's been going on for years and years. And it's funny because back in the early 90s, and I'll go back to the 80s, because what happened in with the riots in L.A. in 92 was something that had been going on for probably about a decade in L.A. It was not a problem just about anywhere. Maybe really small, isolated incidences across the country. But the problem with L.A. that led to the L.A. riots in 92 was that there was a problem with the entire police department in L.A. where they were unfairly targeting black people and probably some Mexicans or whatever. And that was well documented in fictional movies such as like Menace to Society and all that kind of stuff. And then, so what happened in L.A.
Well,
was the result of things that were, there was like a Time magazine article that came out during the time where they were accusing the cops of unfairly treating or just totally abusing and beating on and whatever black people in L.A. And people were kind of like, oh, I don't know, is that really happening? And then the Rodney King incident happened.
Well, I think what started coming up in L.A. where there was a lot of gang violence, a lot of gangs, black gangs.
Right, it was the Bloods and Crips.
Right, they were up and coming, and cops were trying to infiltrate the gangs. They were doing what they could. I'm sure there were wrongdoings and misdoings. There were a lot of black-on-black crime, a lot of black-on-black killing each other, especially through the gangs.
And I'm sure that the cops that were trying to do something about all this were in the crosshairs a lot.
Right. Oh, something else there is proof, even as of, 5 years ago. It's a fact that the Los Angeles Police Department and the Sheriff's Department would hire gang members on the police department to help with relations. That was a big breaking story out in L.A. back maybe 5-6 years ago.
See, I can understand hiring an informant, a snitch,
these are
snitch, if you will.
Right. And in other stories that you wouldn't hear is that at a Christmas party, 5 years ago, the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department were at the same event. Gang members involved against each other. Big fights that started. A lot of alcohol. And you had the Sheriff's Department, and they were physical fights. They had to call the cops, and people were arrested. Cops were arresting cops.
Wait, the cops were calling the cops?
Yeah, arresting cops. It was a melee, and nobody ever heard about it. I mean, the rest of the world didn't hear
Well,
about
you got to sweep it under the rug, whatever. So, wow. Well,
it. So that's the West Coast.
well, and what I wanted to bring all this up for, all the way back in the early '90s, and this goes back to the mid to late '80s that led up to the early '90s, is that it was understood in America, and everybody would agree at that time, that there was an incident that was isolated to L.A. I mean, we all knew that this wasn't a problem in our own city.
Right.
And everybody in L.A., and that's the thing, L.A., huge. We're talking about several smaller suburbs of the greater L.A. area. It wasn't all of L.A. in flames.
Right.
It was just certain neighborhoods. And people outside of those neighborhoods were like, well, this isn't a problem in our neighborhood. It was just these certain really bad neighborhoods.
And the bad neighborhoods are South Central neighborhoods. Anything south of L.A., whether it be Compton, it could be Linwood. I mean, just any of them. You could take Southgate. You could take a whole bunch of them south of L.A. And when I say it's the poorest of the poor, I mean, you've got 6 and 7 families living in 2-bedroom apartments together, and you're like, well, why would they ever do? Well, they got to, because the rent's like $1,500 a month, and you're living in South Central. And I mean, it's unbelievable, the inflation, and government control caused the inflation and will not cure the inflation. A lot of people want rent control, and it doesn't work.
So getting back to what we have today, I believe the difference between back then and today, and if you're a younger American, this may be news to you. And if you're older, you might be like, yeah, you know what, that's true. The race relations back then were much better.
Right.
There was a problem in L.A. It ended up causing the L.A. riots, and everybody knew, okay, that's isolated. Today, we have all these race agitators, all led by our first dear leader, black president, who is just really fanning the flames on this and really kind of creating this new racial tension environment where when something very isolated, we're talking about a guy in Ferguson and his friend who just robbed a store, strong-armed it, and now is being questioned by a cop.
Why are you in the middle of the street? What's going on?
Yeah, and you got to put yourself in his shoes. He's got to be a little worried that he might be being approached by this cop because of what he just did. So there's going to be tension right off the bat. You know, things happen. It ended up leading to this kid being shot. All the evidence, the hard empirical evidence, shows that it was a justified killing in self-defense because of the attack, because of the attempt for the gun, because of the doubling back.
Just like Obama's son, Trayvon Martin.
Yeah.
I mean, he literally beat...
And here's the thing. Well, let's talk about Trayvon for a second.
The white Hispanic guy?
Well, let's talk about Trayvon Martin for a second. There are some questions. It seems like it was a justified killing, but it was kind of ambiguous, kind of hazy. You get to the evidence in the Michael Brown case, much more hard and fast, cold, hard evidence shows that the cop was in the right, Michael Brown was in the wrong. Whereas Trayvon Martin, it looks as though the evidence shows that probably Zimmerman was in the right, maybe, but there.
Well,
you can't prove.
When you're saying he was in the right, the thing is that Trayvon Martin he wasn't bloodied and badgered and beaten. However, Zimmerman,
he was beaten.
He was beaten.
Right, and when you're beating on somebody...
when do you say... I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. As an adult, if you hit me and you're continually hitting me, I'm on the ground and you're still swinging at me, I'm going to shoot you.
I mean, if you're saying stop and you're not and you're having trouble getting him to stop, I mean, at some point, you got to do what you got to do.
I don't know how much of a beating I'm going to take until I shoot somebody, though.
Now, by the way, I will have you know that Cincinnati Public Schools have a policy, and I am not kidding. This is not a joke. They have a policy in the schools that if somebody attacks you, and I'm talking about your student,
Okay, I'm a student.
Yeah.
You're a student.
Yep, we're both
and we
students.
cross each other in the hallway.
Right. And let's say, and some people could be actually minding their own business.
Right.
And for whatever reason, this student decides to attack another
I
student.
don't like you, so I go ahead and kick you in the groin.
Maybe you kind of just glanced and made eye contact with him.
Okay,
And all of a sudden, it's, why you eyeballing me?
Right, you're balling me.
Why you eyeballing me? Oh, I think you were eyeballing me. Yeah, you were. And all of a sudden, you get attacked.
Boom, boom, boom.
You think it's unprovoked, but hey, you shouldn't have been eyeballing it.
Right.
Okay, I am joking about that. But no, let's say you get attacked. It is the policy in Cincinnati Public Schools that you are to not defend yourself. You are not allowed to defend yourself until either a security guard or a cop peels him off of you.
And hopefully that security guard or cop is not dealing drugs in the school.
Yeah, that's a different story. But so if somebody who is an authority and properly approved individual that's allowed to peel them off, because I believe I'm not sure if the teachers
No,
are
they're not allowed involved.
Okay,
they
the
are
teachers
not
are not
allowed. We know public school Cincinnati public school teachers. Both of them have told me
they're not allowed.
They would get fired
Oh.
if they got in between two students fighting.
Yeah, see, I would get fired.
I would
because
get fired too. I'd have to stop it.
I would take the risk of getting fired. But anyway, so you're getting beat on, and you're allowed to scream to stop.
Mm-hmm.
The teachers are also allowed to scream stop.
Okay, so everybody's screaming stop.
If
But I'm
he-
not stopping.
If he doesn't stop,
Right.
if you do something physical, like raise your hand or anything to stop this guy from beating on you, that is called retaliating. And you will then get the exact equal punishment of the person who attacked.
Wow.
Just FYI. Just want to
And
throw
this,
that out there.
This is the government. This is the government school.
Yeah, it's
this is
government
schools.
school. Government school.
Back with what you were talking about, the race baiting and everything. I want everybody to hear this.
Mm-hmm.
I played this for my wife, and I said, "Who do you think's leading this?" And she nailed it.
Oh, let's hear it.
Okay, now they were chanting in the streets of New York. What do we want? Dead cops.
No.
What do we want right now? Listen to it again.
Dead cops.
What do we want?
Dude, how are these
Dead
people
cops.
not striking?
Hold on.
How do you leave your front door in the morning
Who had-
to go be a beat cop when this is going on?
Who had? No, I wouldn't. Who had? Oh, speaking about that, the Eric Gardner, who was killed, and people are claiming it was a chokehold on the killing in New York. His daughter tweeted out one of the cops' addresses this week. His home address.
Well,
His home
then
address.
if he ends up dead. And here's the thing. If you're one of those people chanting,
Guess who's leading that chant?
if you do get end up with a dead cop and
Right.
you are partially responsible for it because of maybe A, you gave out their home address.
Right.
It sounds to me like you would be
Culpable.
very happy. No, happy.
Oh, yeah, you'd be happy, but by definition,
You're
by law,
cheering for it.
but by law, you would be culpable of the murder.
Well, you should definitely get some sort of a punishment that would be a like a percentage responsibility for the murder.
We talked about this last week. Charles Manson's in prison. He didn't kill anybody.
Al Capone, I believe that the problems in Chicago back in Al Capone's days, nobody would ever say, "Well, Al Capone didn't pull the trigger."
He didn't kill nobody physically.
He may not have,
May not. It's
but
possible.
he led the crime ring that was responsible for a lot of people pulling triggers, and he may have actually given direct orders. And
Right.
back then, if you didn't actually physically kill them, you couldn't get charged for murder. So if I told Brian, I need you to go, I want you, I'm ordering you to go and kill this guy. And Brian says, yes, sir, and runs off and kills him. Brian would get charged for murder.
And I said, well, but Kerry told me to do it.
Right, and I would get charged with a lesser crime. And then finally it got so bad with Al Capone that they were like, okay, we need to change the laws.
Right.
And then that's how that all came to be.
So this chanting for dead cops right now is led by, with the bullhorn, none other than...
I can't even begin to imagine.
Al, I'm the racist
No.
SOB Sharp.
Dude, he needs to be hauled off in jail for that.
They were posting it up on
I mean, I know there's freedom of speech. Am I a hypocrite?
no, freedom of speech does not warrant you to go into a crowded movie theater and scream fire.
Yeah, and I could argue that you should be allowed to. But
Oh, no, but you're inciting not a riot, but inciting riots is not part of freedom of speech. You can't incite violence like that, not in a public sphere like that.
right, it's very, very abstract, but I would argue, let's talk about real quickly about the crowded theater thing.
Right.
If somebody yells fire in a crowded theater, which is always the popular, you can't, that's, you're limited on freedom of speech. I'm like, well, let's put our imagination caps on. Let's all close our eyes and put ourselves in the theater. If somebody yells fire in a crowded theater and you don't see fire or smoke, I mean, whatever. But if you do see fire and smoke, then maybe he should be yelling fire.
Right.
But who is going to trample out of a theater when somebody screams fire and you don't see fire or smoke? So, I mean, what are we talking about here?
Well, the crowded theater's blacked out. I mean, it's dark.
You may not see the smoke.
Yeah, you might startle people. They're claiming it's possible rampage. People stomp on each other and die.
Well, we all seen
Which is
the video
possible.
of that Great White concert
Oh yes,
where over 100 people died.
that was just
That
recent.
thing was it was a couple years ago.
Yeah. When I say
Several-
recent, I mean not back.
Historically speaking, it
not
was
back
recent.
when Great White was on the top of their game.
Well, that was.
Back in the so you're saying they're hitting the top of their game now?
I don't think several of them died, didn't they? Or did they all get out?
They all got it.
Did they all
the band got out. Yeah, they went
because
out
they
the back.
knew, right? If you knew the back way, you got out.
And the reason why the place caught fire is because they had fireworks on the stage in a bar.
Yeah, but they didn't have proper water. What do you call it? The sprinkler system.
Right.
They didn't have the proper exits and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, that thing burned pretty good before people started running. At first, everybody's like, crap, it looks like there's going to be a fire. I see it. There it is burning. Let's start making our way out the exits.
Okay.
What they didn't know was that it was about to engulf everything. They didn't realize how fast it was going to go.
A lot of people don't realize how
Well,
fast
they
fire
certainly
did.
didn't. Right.
Okay, so say somebody goes to a crowded movie theater and screams Allah Akbar, I'm going to kill white Americans.
Well, in the Marines, we learned that when ambushed, and this is so counterintuitive, you go towards the ambush.
Okay, that's fine.
If we all taught everybody that.
Oh, so the whole crowd would run after
right
this guy.
at him.
Okay.
Could you imagine? There's a species of honeybee that does that. Have you ever seen that?
Really?
Yeah, it turns out there is a special hornet that could go into a beehive and kill the entire beehive and then take all of its honey.
Wow.
So there's a special species of bee that can beat that bee, that can destroy that hornet. It comes in, and as soon as they see it, they wait until he's far enough in, and then instantly, all at the same time, they all swarm it and kill it.
So that he doesn't have a possibility to escape.
Yeah,
Wow.
right, and tell all of his hornet buddies to come and destroy this. But
That's
anyway,
amazing.
so yeah, that's how that works.
So my deal on Mayor de Blasio, why I'm lumping him into this whole
They
thing.
all should have faced him and swarmed him,
should have.
like the bees.
should have.
People need to know that black lives and brown lives matter as much as white lives. It's what we still have to aspire to.
Even that was Mayor de Blasio. The mayor of New York City is saying in a public forum, in a speech, in a press conference, black lives and brown lives matter as much as white lives.
Well, now hold on a second. On the surface, that sounds like duh. But and so he's saying something that everybody should agree with. Right. Black lives and brown lives do matter as much as white lives. But here's what the subliminal message there is. That he has to say that because we don't believe it.
I don't think he believes it, and that's why he said
it. It's projection!
Yes! All right, well, jumping right into Al Sharpton. You heard him start up there. Oh, my God, he just gets me. But here he comes.
We still have to aspire to.
Even if we get knocked down, we get up and go to the corner and come out fighting the next round. You won the first round, Mr. Prosecutor, but don't cut your gloves off. Because the fight's not over.
Can you believe this?
Well, that was in response to the them not indicting.
Right.
Not indicting. Now, there's two different non-indictings. There was the Ferguson cop.
That was not indicted.
And
for
then,
obvious reasons.
Right, and then there was the New York cop.
Right. And, however, that New York cop that was not indicted, nobody seems to tell you that it was a female, black female, that headed
Sergeant.
up.
Yeah, it was Sergeant.
Sergeant that headed up the entire
group
that was to indict or not indict.
She was the platoon leader.
Yes! Female, black, and then there were also many other black Americans on the panel as well.
Well, yeah, and that just shows you right there that this really doesn't have anything to do with skin color.
Speaking of that,
I mean, his response to the resisting arrest has nothing to do with skin color.
Speaking of that,
everything else has to do with spring.
Not to get too far up, the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, which is it's a left-wing cover for the communist group.
It's an activist group that pushes communism.
They are extremely busy this week. They filed 2 different lawsuits. They filed a lawsuit, and they're suing the Ferguson School District Board.
Why?
On behalf of the NAACP and the district's black residents.
What?
Yes. Everybody who lives in Ferguson and is black, you are part of, whether you know it or not, you're
being sued.
No, you're part of the people suing.
Oh, it's a class action lawsuit.
Yeah, and they're suing the school district board for having too many white people.
Too many white people where? Oh, you mean on the board?
They feel that the voting system is rigged to elect whites only on the board because not enough black people can vote, and the Huffington Post is pushing this story.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. How do you have to be elected into the board?
Right. On the board, you're elected, you're voted upon to be on the school district's board. Remember.
And so the theory is that if it's always a majority of white people that vote...
They're saying there's too many white people voting.
Because then they're all racist and they're voting for whites only.
Right, and they're
because they would never vote for a black person.
No, not like Alan West or Alan Keyes. I haven't seen him around in a while. Anyways, the second suit that they're involved in, they're suing the Kansas City School District. The whole district of schools. Because during an award ceremony, there was a politician that was there giving out an award to the school for the school being of great honor and doing good things. And 12 to 14 students during this award ceremony stood up and put their hands up in the air as to say, don't shoot. They were ushered out of the auditorium and sent home and threatened with a 10-day suspension. They then rethought that out and said 10 days is too harsh. We're going to give you a Saturday school, give you detention on Saturday.
I agree with the Saturday school.
Okay, well, they don't like that, and they're saying that violates their free speech, and the ACLU is suing the Kansas City School District.
Well, there's a time and a place for speeches. You're supposed to have an approved place. Was this on public property?
Oh, this is in the school.
Yeah.
It's in the auditorium.
You get in dicey area there.
Well, but the problem I have is, damn it, man, have some respect. You guys are getting an award for being good.
That's true.
And then you go ahead and spit on the guy who's giving you an award.
That is disrespectful. That is disrespectful. I mean, that's really dicey, though. I don't know what to say about that.
Could you imagine walking down the sidewalk when you were in the Marine Corps, walking down the sidewalk, and you see maybe a colonel or a general, you see his car coming down the street, and you go ahead and take your cover off, just wave at him?
That would be pretty... that would be disrespectful.
That's my point.
How about flipping him off?
Now, I know you guys listening right now don't understand the level. I mean, you would be...
he would slam on the brakes.
Yeah, he would slam on the brakes, probably beat you.
You would definitely lose rank.
Oh, you would be... They would take money away from you.
Especially if his family is in the car.
My
little 5-year-old daughter was in the car.
And my girlfriend and my wife were both in the car, too.
Oh, yeah, that would be a problem.
They saw it all. Disrespect.
They started crying.
Everybody started crying.
So anyway.
Wow. So, let's see. To go on the offensive, to go on the opposite of all this racism, there's a former NYPD commissioner, Bernard Kerik.
Man, you got to get these names down.
This guy, Bernard.
Wow. You need a phonetic spelling.
Bernard Kirk.
Okay.
We're just going to call it out like that. And he was being interviewed on Fox News.
Good old Bernie.
And this is what he said about the blacks and the racism and all this profile.
They're wrong. There's two substantial things they're wrong about. The pervasive racism, 1, and 2, cops go into minority communities to target and harass minorities. No, they do not. They don't. They go into those communities to address crime. They go into those communities because they're attacking crime. They're not targeting blacks and minorities. They're targeting crime. And we prove that in New York City because those minority communities have been they have received the most substantial reductions in crime in the nation. Violent crime down 80-85%, homicides down by 80%. Yes, they went into those minority communities. They did a job there, and the minority communities are much safer today than they've ever been.
Ooh, you cannot say that these days. I think there's got to be a lot of truth in that, and I'm sick and tired of
He's the former commissioner of the New York Police
Department. There's so much truth in every single word he just said, but there's a huge and growing, sadly, population of people that when you say that, you are just a overt racist for not realizing the plight of the black man who is only being arrested, persecuted, and all that because of the racism of the cops. And they will argue that the proof of that is in the demographics of the prison system.
Yes. Well, then there lies the problem.
Yeah.
If you take... And I've got answers for this. There's no question about it. And it all has to do with the breaking down of the black family. The absolute bare bones, the thread, the husband, the wife, the children, that a conservative core belief of rearing children. I mean, the basic understanding of protecting your kids, raising them to be better than you, that in the black and Hispanic community has been shredded and destroyed. When you have, in New York, 50% of all black women who get pregnant, half abort the baby. Half.
That's
50%.
Shocking.
75% of children born in the black community to a black woman, obviously, 70%, up to 75%, are born out of wedlock. There's no husband. There's no dad in the picture.
So how did this happen?
I think this all begins back during the 60s and 70s, where you have...
Right. So let me walk my theory through, and let's see what you think about it. So at some point, there was definitely racism. And it could definitely be attributed to not just all white people, but certain groups of white people. And you could even say, well, a majority of this particular political group is particularly racist against black people. If you can convince the entire black race, or at least the majority of black people, that this is a fact, then you can get them to side with the other side of the political spectrum. At that point, once you have a vast majority of the black race unified behind one political party, you can then say, all right, let's use this group, this political party, and at this point we'll call it the Democratic Party.
Democratic?
Or Democrat Party. The Democrat Party, they decided, well, since we're all into creating a communist utopia,
right,
let's start with the black community. In order to create this utopia for the black community, we need to make it so that they no longer they need the government to do things for them, and in order to make it a need for them, we need to get them we need to split this family, the nuclear family up.
Right.
In order to do that, if normally when a man and woman get together, and there could be an accidental pregnancy or a purposeful pregnancy, whatever it is, at some point it could be before they get pregnant, after they get pregnant, whatever. A raising of a child needs to take place, right?
Right.
Which it helps to have a man and a woman. If we could say, well, you know what? We don't need to have a child. We can abort that child. Now all of a sudden you don't even need. We could start to talk about without the need of a man and a woman household.
And like we talked about before, Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, is absolutely racist as racist can be, and founded Planned Parenthood to kill black people. I mean, that was her goal. And so Planned Parenthood is now funded part and parcel by the government and whatever. And they're
pretty much, for the most part, even though it's technically its own 501c3, all that stuff, it's pretty much just totally in bed with the government.
Right. And so if you want to see where their offices are, where they perform abortions, just go look in the black communities. They're everywhere.
That's true. They set up shop there.
And they started this stuff, I believe, right after Martin Luther King was killed. I think there's this crux, this tipping point because Martin Luther King was a Republican, and a lot of black Americans voted Republican back in the day because the liberal left Democrats started the KKK. They were definitely pushing all the Jim Crow laws in the South. The South was liberal Democrats who wanted to keep slavery. I mean, this is what the liberal Democrats are. And so black Americans knew they didn't want that, and so they'd vote Republican. I mean, look at Abraham Lincoln. He was a Republican. Look at all the Republicans that were politicians at that time. 100% voted to free black slaves. 100%.
And there's a lot of low information voters out there listening to Brian like, well, I don't believe that.
And not one single, every single Democrat that was a politician at that time, every single one voted no to freeing slaves. So there's this timeline here in the 60s and 70s, early 70s, where the liberals started.
They got organized.
They got real organized. They got organized in the media. They got organized as in Empower, Black Panthers.
Education system.
Education system. Oh, they started taking over the education for
that
sure.
was key. That was absolutely key.
Malcolm X with this angry vitriol, we'll get him back and we're going to kill. Just like the guy who shot both those cops, you kill one of ours, we'll take two of yours. This Malcolm X approached Martin Luther King with this, let's combine our powers together to make this happen, and Martin Luther King said absolutely not.
Yeah, to his credit, he wanted to do it all peacefully, whereas Malcolm X was just he was like an angry young person.
Thug.
Real, but like, you know how the young crowd, they're more, emotional, they could be more violent. I know I was more violent when I was younger.
Yeah. I mean, there's no question about it.
Right.
I admit it,
and
too.
so he appealed to the people that just wanted to act out physically and violently and stuff like that. So
right. Well, and I didn't mean to bring up Martin Luther King to segue on this clip, but earlier this week, Lou Dobbs, who has a TV show on Fox News, was interviewing Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece.
Okay.
This week, and the question he put to her, as we hear this president charge this entire country with racism, and we hear Bill Clinton and his nonsense and his wife carrying out the drumbeat of racial exploitations, what are your thoughts on all this racism?
I am hearing these voices that are proclaiming racism from the heights of the United States of America, and that's disturbing to me. There is racism in America, and many of us have experienced it, but America is not racist. Ooh. The reason that I really say that, Lou, we have an African-American president, a man with brown skin.
There you go.
And many, many Caucasians voted for him. Yeah. So how must they feel now to be told, you're racist? Mm-hmm. Now, we voted for you, President Obama, but I'm a racist? That's bothering.
How long do you think she'll be allowed to live?
Well, I am really impressed with, to be honest with you, that is the first black spokesperson on any kind of mass media that I've heard in forever that sounds like they're really empathizing with white people. She put herself in a white person's shoes who voted for a black president and is now being called a racist. How must that feel?
Right.
And I'm really happy to hear that, and it makes me think, you don't hear that.
She's on Lou Dobbs, and I know I'm telling you all Lou Dobbs, and everybody's shaking their heads listening to the show saying, Lou Dobbs, what's that? Well, it's a show on Fox, and it's just news.
Is he Fox Business, right?
Yeah. But he's great, and he's real level-headed, very solid. But the thing I wanted to point out about her, and this is something that we're trying to get you folks to hear, these little subtle nuances. Could you hear the level of calmness and civility in her voice? There was no anger. There was no hate. Sure, she was upset, but you could differentiate, clearly being upset with the words that she was saying. There's no anger. There was no hate. There was none of that.
Well, that's the way I think a majority of black folks out there feel. Sure. I think that they're just like, you know what? Because, a lot of them are parents of kids that I coach and all that kind of stuff. And that sounds more like them than what I hear from Al Sharpton and the people that are screaming to kill the cops and all that kind of stuff. But, by the way, I'm glad you didn't call her clean and articulate.
However, Uncle Joe, the Vice President of the United States of America, did refer to Obama as clean and articulate,
as opposed to what he thinks that he should be. That's what you're dealing with, folks. That's projection in action. When he says that, what he's trying to say is all you guys out there that are white Democrats who don't want to vote for a black man because you're racist, he's not what you think, which is dirty and speaking in Ebonics. What he actually is not what you think, which is clean and articulate. That was Joe Biden blowing the dog whistle for the white Democrats.
Right. Absolutely.
I can't believe that any black man would want to, or black woman would want to be a part of that racist party.
No, not at all. And check this out. There's a show that we really like, the 5 at 5 on Fox with Greg Gutfeld.
My favorite.
Absolutely. They have their token liberal, if you will, on the show, Bob Beckel. And they have to keep him on this show, hanging on a thread. I mean,
they got to put somebody on there to play devil's advocate, if you will.
But it's in the threads of his fiber of how just he is clearly, and he'll tell you, make no bones about it, he's old school racist. He's old school.
He's the old white Democrat.
Right. And he'll tell you that he's done a lot of drugs and he's done a lot of things and crooked things in politics.
He's the guy that he was probably at Woodstock. He's that typical baby boomer, you know.
And if you've ever seen the movie Wag the Dog, he was probably one of those guys in the back room that said, "Hey, Clinton, let's get this war over here." It's a fake war started to cover up for the blue dress.
There you go. In fact, didn't he work for Clinton?
Yes, I think
he did work for Clinton.
I think he did.
He actually started the war, the launching of cruise missiles into, what was it, Afghanistan or something like that.
Out in the desert.
Right.
So this is Bob on black conservatives on the 5.
Why is it that black conservatives believe that nobody listens to them, that they have the answers, and that we're constantly down in the mountain?
What?
He's saying why his problem is with black conservatives. Why do they feel like we're putting them down? Why do they feel like they know the right answers? Why do they feel like they're out? Why do they feel this way?
That nobody's listening to them?
Right.
Well, I mean, they have a growing... If you go on YouTube, I'm actually friends with several very outspoken black conservatives that do a really good job of selling it to whoever is willing to listen. And they got a following. But yeah, they're not in the millions. They don't have millions of followers. So I'm not really sure what to think of Bob's statement there.
Well, Greg had a quick little pithy, and that's why it sounded at the end of that sound clip sounded like it was cut off, because it was. I wanted to hold on that.
You wanted to juice everybody up for Greg's response. For those of you that don't know Greg Gutfeld, when I first discovered him, I was like, this is the savior of the Republican Party, because it was full of a bunch of old fuddy-duddies that don't have any connection whatsoever with the young, hip, up-and-coming youngsters. And then Greg Gutfeld comes along, and he's like the coolest guy in the world. He's the guy that if you ran into at a party or a bar, he's going to be the guy everybody wants to listen to. He's the center of attention, and everybody thinks he's just the coolest guy in the room.
Well, and not only that, but he has some really pithy comments, and he's quick on his feet to come back. And so this is what he said to Bobby.
The scariest 2 words in a white liberal dictionary is Allen West. If they see him walking down the street, they cross it and get fleeced by Al Sharpton. It's white liberals in every whether it's on social networks or on TV that mock black conservatives. The way they treat Maya Love, the way they treat Allen West, the way they treat Tim Scott. It's not an exception. It's the rule.
Oh, wow. And you know what? How do you come back?
Well, this is what Bob Beckel said on a comeback to that. This is going to make it lose.
It was Allen West at a town meeting that said 79 to 81% of the Democratic caucus in the House were communists. Now, what are you going? Where are you
off by 10%?
Oh! Hey, Greg Gutfeld nailed it. He nailed it.
This is your talk, and this is quintessential. You have a young, and when I say young, he's what, 40-ish? 40s?
He looks, I think he is early 40s, but he kind of looks more like early 30s. Like he looks young.
I mean,
you're talking about Greg,
yeah,
right?
Greg. I'm thinking 37-ish, 38. I mean, he would be a guy.
I think he's a little older than us, just a tiny bit. But when you look at him talk and you look at the way he looks and just what he talks about,
right.
and that he's so in tune with young pop culture,
right.
like really in tune. You would think this guy can't be older than, 31, 32?
So he's extremely conservative, pro-capitalist, all the things that we espouse here on our show. And he's talking directly to the beast himself.
Oh, yeah, right.
I mean...
you know what, though? You know what Greg Gutfeld is, for those of you who don't know? He is the conservative answer to Jon Stewart.
Yo,
and
absolutely.
You know what? Both of them know it, and they are both scared of each other. They don't ever. I shouldn't say ever. I don't think Greg has ever pointed anything at. They're so scared that people are going to discover that they are the two giants on either side.
The yin and yang. It's like the Japanese symbol. The white and the black. You have to have the good and the bad, and they're equally 50% good, 50% bad.
It's almost like Floyd Mayweather and Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao. They were both close to the same weight. They were both kicking everybody's butt. They were both considered the best pound for pound. And it was almost like they were both secretly hoping that people don't realize, hey, why aren't these guys fighting? And then, and then finally, people started saying, well, they should fight. And then it's like they both were equally responsible for avoiding each other. And to this day, they still haven't fought. But I think that both Jon Stewart and Greg Gutfeld, I believe, this is pure speculation on my part, but I think they're both trying to avoid people finally discovering, well, why aren't these guys having a debate? Because if they went, it would be the most epic debate ever, because they're both very funny. I will give Jon Stewart all the props in the world. I'll give them all the props in the world. He's very funny.
Yep.
He's very quick. I mean, both of them.
Hold on.
They're both very quick. They're both very funny. Although I will give you this, though. I'll give Brian this because I know where he's like itching.
Oh,
he is squirming,
chomping at the bit.
He is squirming in his chair right now. Jon Stewart
has a problem.
Well, no. What I was going to say was, as funny and as on point as all of his liberal arguments appear to be
on his show, correct?
The entire thing is very well researched, very well scripted, so I'm not 100% convinced on how fast he is on his feet. However, when Jon Stewart does an interview, and he's been interviewed several times by Bill O'Reilly, nothing's scripted. He's just bouncing back and forth.
It's been pretty good?
Oh, he's right on top.
See, the only evidence I know of is when he told the lady he couldn't find his thingy.
That was definitely.
He's like, no, of course I didn't vote. I couldn't find my thing.
Yeah, he wasn't. He didn't sound too good. He did not. But when he's with Bill O'Reilly is like always looking to hammer somebody down into the ground during his interviews.
Yeah.
And Jon Stewart gladly stepped up to the challenge and actually did very well against Bill O'Reilly. But the problem is Bill O'Reilly is the angry old white guy.
Yeah, and older
Jon
he gets,
Stewart knows how to handle that. You put the young, hip, really quick on his feet, Greg Gutfeld up against Jon Stewart, and you might find Jon Stewart just tongue-twisted. Yeah. I'm not sure.
Is anybody going to bring up to Bill O'Reilly anything about those midnight phone calls that he made to his
Yes,
assistant?
he's just gotten through it.
Where did that go?
He just said, you know what? Whatever. I'm not going to talk about it. That's what he said.
But she wants...
I mean, it's no different.
She wants justice.
It's no...
She wanted she better have gotten millions.
It's... Okay, so we're talking about a victim here. See, I was going to say it's similar to like Rush's incident with the OxyContin. But
I
there's
think it's
no
different.
It is because there is no actual victim.
Yeah, Rush only damaged himself. He wasn't damaging a woman.
Right. So there is. I shouldn't compare the two.
No.
But the reason I want to
Scandals.
is because it's an incident that could be considered a scandal, and how do you deal with it?
Right.
And both of them seem to have dealt with it the same way. Both of them seem to have just been like, you know what? I'm just not even going to address it anymore. I addressed it once. Whatever. We're done with it. That's it. We're done.
Right.
However, we have a victim that's going, hey, don't ignore me.
You guys can Google that if you want. Hey, speaking of that, speaking about all this race baiting, I've got a clip of your dear president.
My dear president.
Maybe not yours. Maybe
He's
not
not
mine
a president.
either.
He's a leader. And by leader,
many communities around the country, a gulf of mistrust exists between local residents and law enforcement. Too many young men of color feel targeted by law enforcement. Guilty of walking while black or driving while black, judged by stereotypes that fuel fear and resentment and hopelessness. We know that statistically, in everything from enforcing drug policy to applying the death penalty to pulling people over, there are significant racial disparities. That's just the statistics.
Wow.
And the worst part of it is it scars the hearts of our children.
Scars
the hearts of white children who grow unnecessarily fearful of somebody who doesn't look like them. Stains the heart of black children who feel as if no matter what
Well, she felt bad for that black girl.
he does, he'll always be under
guilt.
suspicion. That is not the society we want.
Stains the hearts.
It's not the society that our children deserve.
now,
Whether you're black or white, you don't want that for America.
you know what?
Oh man.
Brian points something out that he was comparing what he said to white guilt. No, he said that white children grow up learning to be afraid of black people, and so they cross the street to the other side. That's not white guilt. That's just fear of blacks.
Right.
And kind of a segue to that same argument is his complete mischaracterization of the improper balance of the application of the death penalty on black people.
Yeah. What is that?
When you decide to use the death penalty, that is colorblind as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, if you want to argue that too many black people are being found guilty of their crimes, okay, we could talk about that. But if they've committed the crime that requires or has the death penalty as an option, I'm not seeing that. You know, maybe you want to say, well, if they weren't found guilty so much, then there wouldn't be so many death penalty cases that are of black defendants. Fine. I just... Man, you know what it was? He wanted to say the word death penalty because it's the liberal, typical liberal thing that we're against the death penalty and the Republicans are for the death penalty. So we need to throw that in there. It was almost like, okay, we got our checklist here of things we want to say during this speech. Got to throw out the death penalty thing.
Yep.
Did you include that? Yep. Yeah, we did. We instead of saying that too many black people are being convicted as a percentage of the demographics, we're going to go ahead and just say that they're being having the death penalty apply to them. That way we can check 2 check boxes in one sentence. We're expediting.
Oh, so you're killing 2 birds with one stone. No, and no pun intended on the killing part.
Right. So, yeah, we got that check box. Because you don't want to have to readdress it when you could just say it, say 2 things in one sentence. So, check box. It's your typical liberal speech. You got to put all the check. Oh, hey, did anybody enter or check box? We got the hearts of the children. You got to look out for the children.
Dude, he went straight for the
was
jugular.
On the checkbox.
Yeah.
The liberal checklist. It was on there. We got to say.
He said staining the hearts of black children.
Okay, so
their hearts are stained.
Okay, the word heart and the word children have to be checked off.
Wow. Same
thing with death penalty.
We have the perfect speech. And that was only
cookie cutter.
That was like 27 seconds long.
Yeah,
and I don't even think it was that
long. And he jammed all those things in there.
It was like Machine Gun Obama, just shooting them off one after another. It was a fully automatic Machine Gun Obama.
It was so efficient.
Yes!
It was in 27 seconds. He checked off so many of the typical liberal ideology things.
Oh yeah. Hey, speaking of Obama, remember last week when we heard him say,
the problem is that I'm the President of the United States. I'm not the Emperor of the United States.
That is a problem.
You remember
we need to solve that. We need to solve that problem.
We can get rid of it. Well, ironically, this week, John Scott, who's on Fox News, was talking to Judy Miller, and his questioner, he, meaning Obama, has said time and time again he's not allowed to do these things.
Do what things?
All the executive orders, executive action. I'm not allowed to do this. But then all of a sudden he decides to do this. How does he justify that? And her comeback was...
Well, as the New York Post and other papers and networks have started pointing out, he just decides to give himself a new title. In this case, it's Emperor Obama.
Wait, where do you go with that?
And liberals will look at that and say, "Oh, that's crap. He said the problem is I'm not emperor, not that I am emperor." No, you're saying that you need to be emperor.
Exactly.
That's what you said.
Word for word.
You're saying the problem is that you're not.
The problem is...
that is so funny.
The problem is that I'm President of America, not
the emperor. So in order to fix that problem, we need to be the emperor.
Exactly.
And abolish the presidency. And who was the last person to abolish a presidency? Would that be in 1939?
Oh, was it FDR?
No, abolish a presidency. I believe that would have been... It may have happened since then, but I do know of an incident in Germany back in 39. Was it 39 or 38? Or was it before that?
Oh, I think it was earlier than 38, because 38 was
36,
when things were really ramping up.
Somebody, where's my producer? He needs to get back.
It is 36. 1936. That's what they're
and if we're
saying
wrong,
from behind the
we'll
screen.
Apologize in our next episode.
Well, whatever.
That's what New York Times does. They apologize for their misstatements a week later on page B14 in a tiny little 6 font. 6 font. For those of you that don't know what 6 font is, go ahead and open up your word processor. Go up there.
Your word what?
Processor.
What is that?
Microsoft Word. And since there is no selection for 6, you want to highlight the number and then type 6 in, and then
see what that looks like.
Then start to type.
That's one of those numbers that only Bugs Bunny could read. When they say read the eye chart, and he says copyright 1942, Walla Walla, Washington.
I was going to say fine print. If you've ever busted out your contract for your phone, your smartphone, you got the small print, but then at the bottom you have
the whole contract
fine
is
print.
small, but it's not small compared to
the fine print,
which you're really in for.
Or microfiche.
Okay,
Anyway.
kids, don't worry about what that is.
Oh, for those of you. Anyway.
Kind of reminds me of...
rectal feeding.
Yes, man.
Yes, it does.
Oh, did you hear about the school that had a basketball tournament? It was a high school or a youth basketball tournament, whatever.
Right. What happened?
Well, turns out one of the teams, or several of the teams, decided we're going to stand in solidarity of the black people of Ferguson, or those that are oppressed.
Where was this at? Was this even in Missouri?
San Francisco.
So it was in a whole other state.
Yeah, it was Northern California. Had a basketball tournament at a school. So these kids decided they're going to wear uniforms, which are basically just T-shirts, that they have the silk screening of "I Can't Breathe" across the front.
Hold on. So this will be their official uniform with their number on the back?
I'm sure there's numbers. The picture I'm looking at just shows 4 girls on the court, and none of them have their back turned, so I can see the front of all of them. Actually, I see partial
back.
That looks like there's a number. So this is a uniform.
Hold on. So a uniform would have the name of your school on the front.
Yeah, apparently they go to the I Can't Breathe Academy of Fine Arts.
I was reading this article, and when you get further down in the article, the article this Yahoo, they slip it in there and they say his last dying words.
Oh, that's right. No, I don't think that was slipped in. I think that
he did not die on the streets. He died later on in a hospital from complications.
And his last words were, "My heart is not beating anymore."
He said nurse.
By the way, I know wrestling referees, and in wrestling there's a lot of grappling, and there are some headlocks. Some of them are legal, some of them are illegal. Regardless of whether they're legal or not, you could actually cut off the breathing if you do it a certain way.
Correct.
And so the referees have to watch out for that. And it's very similar to what you saw in the video, in the I Can't Breathe video from the New York cop trying to stop this guy from resisting arrest. So what the referees will always tell you, this is what is taught to us, and this is the standard operating procedure for reffing a wrestling match. If the child who is wrestling is screaming, "I can't breathe," they respond by saying, "Yes, you can, because if you couldn't breathe, you wouldn't be able to say that."
Correct.
So, for those of you who are trying to say, "Oh my God, this guy died because he couldn't breathe," if his last dying breath, keyword being breath, was "I can't breathe," guess what? He can breathe.
Folks, you need air. You need oxygen. You need the movement of the air in and out of your lungs in order to speak. You cannot speak without using air in breathing. I don't think it's possible. You can make noises, but you can't.
Sort of.
You can't pronounce words.
I would have a lot. I would say that the reports of him saying, if you will, quote unquote, "I can't breathe," would be much more credible if they said the last thing he did before he died was lip or mouth the words "I can't breathe," or the universal chokehold signal, which is the hands on the throat.
Right. I'm choking. Hey, speaking about that, back in the medieval days when they used the guillotine, and for you kids in wherever you're at, it's a big giant knife way up in the air, and they'd stick your head underneath it, and they'd pull the lever, and that blade would come down,
chop your head off.
Chop your head right off. I tell you, we should bring it back. That is the cleanest, most easiest, absolute. You won't have a botched execution in that one.
Oh, actually, there was a botched execution.
Oh shit.
The for those of you, the king who was doing all the executions,
right?
Some of you have to Google it. The king who was the French king at the time, who was ordering these executions like on a daily basis.
Henry VIII.
No, that would be
16th.
16th. No, that would be English. Is it? No, English.
Because he killed his own wife with a guillotine.
Henry VIII was English. This would have been a French king.
Okay.
So he was doing all this, and so finally people said, "You know what? I am fed up with this. Let's go storm the
Bastille,
the castle, or whatever he lived, the mansion, the estate. We're going to drag him out, and we're going to put him in the guillotine." Well, he was so fat. He was massively morbidly obese. They drug him out, and we got our producers looking at us frantically. King Louis.
Is that the 16th? XVI? The 16th. King, yeah, Louis.
That is 16th.
He was also whacking his wives, too.
Oh, he was chopping
He
them?
killed a handful of his own wives, yeah.
Because he could have been whacking them, but not. So anyway, they put him in the guillotine, and when they pulled that lever, all of the momentum and weight of that blade didn't go all the way through.
You are lying.
So guess what they had to do?
Stand on it.
They had to jump up on it and start...
No, you are lying.
They had to start jamming their butt down on top of the blade over and over until it finally went all the way through.
You got to be making this up.
No, that's the fact. That is the historical fact.
Leave it to the French.
You know where I think I heard that from? The story about the French Revolution on the History Channel.
Wow.
Pretty credible background.
Well, my whole thing about this guillotine, though, is
you know how, like, when you try to, I don't mean cut you off, but you're trying to close a door. You close your door and it doesn't close all the way. So instead of you can't open it because you locked it on the inside, and you don't want to unlock it again to open it and close it.
Oh, your car door.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So you shove it with your butt really hard.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to dent it. You don't want to dent it.
Yeah, you give it that extra hit.
And if you shove it with your butt hard enough, it will latch it all the way, and it'll prevent you from having to unlock it. Right. That's what they had to do to this guillotine blade.
Wow.
To get
Amazing.
it through. All right.
Well,
so
they had reporters back in the day that were, that would write down and take notes.
They didn't have the app that they could just record. They didn't have apps.
Well, no, because they may have had the app and a stylus in order to take quick notes.
Okay.
And as soon as the head was severed, the guillotine, and it would roll into a basket, they would get right up next to the lips of the head to try and get the last word. They would read the lips to write down his last words.
Do you think that it was, I can't breathe?
They said that's what they all said. All the lips were lipping.
No, you mean it didn't actually sound like this? I can't breathe.
No, it sounded like this. Just like that.
Okay.
Just like that.
That would make sense. So anyway.
So we had a...
what did they do to these girls, by the way?
Go, yeah.
So this is I'm looking at girls on this team that have the I Can't Breathe shirt on.
High school girls.
Turns out the tournament director said, we are banning this.
We have none of this.
We are not allowing you to wear these I Can't Breathe shirts, which is very controversial. And I'm actually shocked that it happened, considering we're in San Francisco, which, by the way, is the mecca of communists.
The breeding ground of communism. I mean, that's literally the epicenter or ground zero, if you will, of
America, pretty much.
Communism in America.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I know he caught some flack for all that, but I am really happy he stood his ground. I saw that picture of LeBron James. I think that was during practice, because you're not allowed to wear I Can't Breathe T-shirt during a game. It wouldn't fly. But LeBron James wearing a shirt.
Very disappointed
there were
that
other...
he decided to wear. You know what? I'm telling you right now, for those of you that are younger, I am telling you this as a fact. No way Michael Jordan would have done that.
No, he ain't doing
way.
it today either. And don't say he's not black. Do not say he's not black. Because he is one of the...
He was a true role model, and nobody accused him of being an Uncle Tom.
Ever! And even Charles Barkley screaming, I'm not a role model, go find one. He wouldn't do that.
Yeah, Michael Jordan said, I'll be your role model. You know what? If Charles Barkley doesn't want to be your role model, then don't follow him. Follow me, because I'll be the role model.
Right.
And he did.
Yep.
He was a true role model. He was the kind of person that not only blacks were emulating, but whites were emulating.
Oh, boy. Let me tell you, if you were a kid during the 80s, it was only one pair of shoe that you had to have.
There was a commercial talking about, I want to be like Mike.
What?
Actually, it was a whole series of commercials.
Okay, the series of commercials, but then they had Michael Jordan on with the Looney Tunes in a cartoon movie.
Yeah, Space Jam.
Wanting to be like Mike.
Yeah.
The whole movie. I mean, it was Michael Jordan everything.
Yeah, he was.
And everybody had to have a pair of Nike shoes. Everybody.
He was more popular than Tiger Woods at his peak and LeBron James now combined. I mean, he was it.
Sure. Oh, I agree.
The only person who kind of took a little bit of his limelight away at the time would have been a peak up-and-coming Mike Tyson, but that went away very quickly.
I mean, well, it went away quickly, but it was kind of a different sport, but still, we were absolutely enamored with Michael Jordan and gym shoes. When you went to school, even if it didn't have the little Michael Jordan symbol on it, you had to be wearing Nikes. You just did.
And that's why Nike paid him so much, because they could get kids to buy their products because he was on it.
Right.
So,
and it was an iconic era for Michael Jordan.
God, I can't believe, what a disappointment.
Hey,
what a disappointment.
Did you hear about that guy? His name, I ran into his name, Antonio Martin, in just outside of Ferguson, Missouri.
Okay.
We talked about this earlier this week. Apparently, there's CC videotape, closed caption TV. That's for those of you in Rio Linda and Westwood. That's the hidden camera. Apparently, it caught him walking out of a gas station.
Okay.
Him and his buddies, there's three of them, they walked out of a gas station, and a cop car pulled up. And just randomly pulled up, and they were walking through the parking lot.
And said, "Get out of the street."
You can't hear You can't hear what the cop's saying. But apparently, the security camera catches Antonio Martin raising a gun up to the cop.
Now, was the cop still in the car?
Yes.
Holy crap, that's so dangerous. For those of you who have imaginations, imagine being attacked while you're trying to drive. Or just even if you're sitting in your car. Very defenseless.
Right. Well, he pulled into it. It shows the cop pulling into the lot of the gas station. Two of the guys walk towards the cop's door, and this third guy looks like he raises a gun. The cop claimed he raised a gun and pointed it at him. The cop then got his gun, quickly shot Antonio Martin to death.
How on earth does somebody raise a gun and point it at the cop but not kill him? I mean, was the gun not loaded?
They haven't gotten that far with it. Nobody's talking about that.
I mean, I whenever I hear stories like this, I start to piece it together in my mind to try to fill in all the blanks.
Right.
And to kind of imagine if that was me. And I'll put myself in everybody's shoes. I'll replay it in my mind over and over from everybody's different situation in order to figure out what could have really happened. And how does the cop end up being the one that survives and the other guy ends up dying when the cop has to only react and he's in the car?
Right.
And this guy lifts a gun up and points it at him? Was it suicide by cop? Was he? I mean, I'm trying to think. Okay, this guy obviously didn't want to kill the cop, because if he wanted to kill the cop, it would have been just like New York City, where those two cops got killed. The guy was able to pull the gun, point it at one guy's head, fire shot and kill him, then point it at the other guy, fire shot and kill him before the cops had a chance to defend themselves. Now here you guys got an incident at a gas station. Very similar where the cops are in a cop car. Is it two cops maybe at the gas
station? They're saying there was one cop.
Okay, so one cop. So this guy has less people to shoot. It's just one person to shoot.
And the other suspect ran away, and they said they're still looking for him.
Okay. So this guy pulls up a gun, aims it at the cop, and the cop has enough time to see, oh crap, this guy has a gun pointed at me. I need to pull my gun out and defend myself. Pulls it out, is able to aim, shoot, and neutralize the threat before getting killed himself. That's just remarkable. So it makes me wonder, this guy obviously didn't fire, which, believe me, that does not need to happen. If a cop sees you pull a gun at him and point it at him, he does not have to wait for you to fire, I don't think.
No.
That's only in Afghanistan.
No.
If you're a soldier in Afghanistan and somebody points a rifle, an assault rifle at you, you must wait until they fire first and if they don't kill you, good to go. You get to return fire, which is such
right. So the police showed up to the scene to assist, and there was a riot that broke out of 200 to 300 people. They're calling it 200 to 300 in the article. And I saw some of the video footage, and it did look like a lot of people screaming and yelling.
Okay.
And the cop, one of the cops that was helping out, was hit in the head with a brick.
Ooh. Well, see, first of all, you got to flee the scene, which is a shame. But that's the nature. We're in a world now where the media has properly educated the civilian population, not just blacks, the whole civilian population, that there is a war between cops and blacks, innocent, unarmed blacks, where the rules of the game are when a cop sees a black person, they may be ordered to kill them or be allowed to kill them on site regardless of whether or not they're armed or not. That is what they're teaching society right now.
Right.
And they are doing such a good job that many are absolutely convinced that this is the world we live in. The world we live in is that this is all made up. The media has created it, and the world that the susceptible has fallen for, the ones that have fallen for this, the world they live in, is that this is a reality. Cops are going around and just looking for that next black person, unarmed teen to kill.
And I wonder if I'm looking into this or reading into it too much, but when I was listening to the news talking heads when they were talking about this, they referred to this guy as an 18-year-old man.
Ooh, interesting.
Am I reading too much into that?
I'm shocked.
I've
First of
never
all,
heard them call any 18-year-old black male that was killed by a cop a man.
Yeah, normally that would be called a teenager or a
tween. In
between a teen and a man.
Yeah, you're a tween.
Okay. Oh, so and for those of you that don't know, liberals, they classify children as anybody under the age of 27. I believe there's a 26. I think when you turn
27, yeah, when you turn 27, you're officially a man. Up until 26, you're still on your parents' insurance.
You're a tween.
Yeah, and you're a tween.
Is it you turn 26, you're not on their plan?
You're on it. You turn 27, you gotta go find a job. You gotta find a job.
All your 26th year, you're still a child.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. But you're not allowed to drink, and you're also not allowed to avoid service.
Whoa! You're now taking away their civil rights.
But then they'll send you out to war.
It's civil right. It's their civil right to be able to drink and do drugs.
I think if you defend this country, you should be allowed to do whatever.
I think that if you defend the country, you should never have to pay taxes for the rest of your life.
Interesting.
Somebody threw that out a while ago. I can't remember who it was, but I really like that. Could you imagine?
Well, and then here's the question, though. You know, back in the day, you didn't get paid as much as you do now. Right. I mean, in fact, the pay today, a lot of people are calling, they say, well, because of the benefits, because of the pay, the soldiers in American military now are just mercenaries.
Oh, because they're... Wow.
Right.
I have to be liberal screaming that kind of nonsense.
Right. I believe that, look, they give you housing. They give you food, the chow hall, 3 meals a day, whatever.
Right.
If you're married and you have to live off base or whatever, I can understand the housing allowance in order to do that.
Right.
That's fine. And believe me, they're not getting paid. They're not lighting the world on fire.
No.
But you add to it the tens of thousands of dollars that you get for your education once you're out, and all kinds of other programs that you're eligible for.
In the Air Force, we only got $14,500.
Well, that was back then.
GI Bill.
Now it's a lot higher.
I would hope so.
Yeah, but and then if you stay in for 20 years, you got that double dipping you're going to do for the rest of your life and all that kind of stuff. So, but anyway, kind of got off on a tangent there. But
you pull a gun on a cop, you're going to be dead. I'm just letting you know. Pull a gun on a cop. If you pulled a gun and pointed it at me, you might wind up dead.
Yeah, well, we learned in the military, and this is very controversial, in the Marines specifically. Part of our safety training is you're not supposed to point, and this is the exact wording, which is key. The exact wording is key. You're not allowed to point a weapon at anything you do not intend to shoot.
Right.
So if you read that in reverse, if somebody points a weapon at you, they must intend to shoot you.
Correct.
Regardless of whether or not they do or not, they are pointing it at you, which means they do intend to shoot you.
Right.
So therefore, you should be allowed to defend yourself at that point.
Yep.
That's my reading into it. And I think that is logical.
Yeah. And I've unfortunately living in LA, at one time I had a guy point a gun at me on the freeway.
Oh, kind of like in Russia.
Yes. When that happens, let me tell you, your whole life is going to flash through your head. It is just an unbelievable feeling that somebody has complete control over you and your life. So, point a gun at me, you might wind up dead.
I got robbed at gunpoint, and I didn't have the means to defend myself. And I just remember thinking, I just knew in my heart he wasn't going to shoot me. He was just using the gun as a way to keep me from fighting back when he ripped my chain off of my neck.
Right.
And I kind of knew, but then afterwards, when you start to replay it in your head and you start to realize, and he never pointed at my head. It may have been a completely different scenario had he pointed at my head.
Right.
But he just jammed it in my stomach, and I just knew he wasn't going to fire.
This week, over the Christmas holiday weekend, there was I don't know how true the story is, but it came over the wire that some guys broke into this family's house demanding money and cash. They didn't have anything or enough of what they wanted, so the guys took all the presents.
Oh, I'm relieved. I'm relieved that you said that. I was thinking, they just shot them all dead.
Well, no. Yeah, they took all the presents. And then another one as well. 18-year-old husband and a 42-year-old wife, straight out of a trailer park, for sure, stole $2,000 worth of Christmas lawn ornaments around their neighborhood to decorate their own trailer.
Wait a minute. So it wasn't just from one residence?
No, it's to the whole neighborhood.
So you're telling me that in order to recreate what this guy did on his trailer, you needed to go to the store with $2,000?
They said they're charging them they said it's up to $2,000. Yep.
Who spends $2,000 on Christmas decorations?
Well, I have a crazy neighbor.
But $2,000?
No, not $2,000. But he's got the blow-up dolls and stuff in front.
Wow, that is not very Christian.
No, it's not Christian, but it has the Christmas hat on it.
Okay.
Those things are expensive. You see how big they are. It's as big as a car.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but you need several of them to add up to $2,000.
True, and he has a couple, but there's no way he's got $2,000.
And I'm thinking the most expensive strands of light. You're going to have to get a lot of strands of light in order to rack up to...
Yeah, because if you look at the lights nowadays, especially all the LED lights that I bought, I mean, I've got a ton of lights, and I didn't spend nearly, maybe $50.
Like 5 years ago, one strand of like 20 LED lights was like $50. I'm like, come on. And so that's why we went to the incandescent. But anyway.
Right. Well, and now we shopped, and I've been doing this for the last couple of years, right after Christmas and the holidays, when all those LEDs go on sale, I start
That's when you get it.
Looting them.
Yeah, and you want to also do that with your clothing in the spring. You want to get all your winter clothes. And then in the fall, you get all your summer clothes.
Okay.
Because all that stuff's on clearance. They got to get their racks cleared.
Right on.
But anyway, that's
so buy a bathing suit right now.
Actually, they're already cleared out.
Ooh.
You needed to get it in September.
Okay.
Because they need to make room for their winter wardrobe. But anyway, so did you hear about this article? I know I sent this to you, didn't I?
I read it.
This
and
guy.
I about gouged my eyeballs.
I know. I was just... steam was just
I don't
shooting
know how,
out of my ears.
Right. I don't know how I even kept myself. I had... You know what I actually did? I stopped. Walked away from it.
I know. You have to take a break.
And then I came back. And I still didn't read the whole thing. I just read his
I couldn't
points.
get to the end of it. I couldn't get to the end of it. So basically, this young white man.
He looks like he's maybe late 20s, early 30s.
He could be early 20s. I mean, this guy.
He could be like 25-ish.
He looks like he just started to need to shave.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking at his photo right here.
Yeah.
So, and I don't even, it doesn't really matter how it came to be, but he has either a half black or maybe possibly full black son.
Well, his wife, he said in the article, his wife is black.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if this was like an adoption thing or whatever. So he is married to a black woman, which is doubly strange. I mean, because of the article. When you read the article, you'll be like, what is up with this guy?
Well, if you go down, I know you stopped, but I hit one of them, and he said, my wife will never have to deal with this.
Why not? All right. Well,
because she's black. So the 7 things he could
because
do...
he's a woman? I mean, because she's a woman.
Yeah, no, because she's black.
But, okay, so here's the article. The article's called 7 Things I Can Do That My Black Son Can't.
Right.
That's the name. And as soon as I saw that title, I said, there is no way. If I click on this and my computer locks up, I'm going to restart it and find this thing. There's no way I'm not going to read what this article's about.
Right.
Because I'm sure...
This is another Yahoo article.
Yeah, it has to be. Actually, it's a Yahoo parenting article. Oh! There is a new section in Yahoo called Yahoo Parenting.
I think you're the only one I know that is addicted.
That punishes myself.
Yes!
I punish myself.
Folks, do not think for 1 second.
Do not try this.
He enjoys, and everybody that we all know knows that if there's something, because that's why you listen to the show, so that you don't have to be punished through the media and the news and listen to Obama and all this stuff. I understand that. Carrie, goes out for recreational purposes.
Yeah, recreational purposes, right?
Seeks out liberal, hate-filled articles that will make your mind explode.
It doesn't make my skin crawl too much, although this article did a really good job. The kind of feeling that my dad gets, because my dad, like when he's listening to MSNBC, he said he has to turn it off.
Yep.
He physically cannot do it.
No, and
he has to go off.
No, and I can see your dad right now, just instantly, as soon as Chris Matthews, his picture appears. He doesn't even have to say anything. And the music in the background, the intro, your dad would, like lightning, hit the off button.
Yeah, and he also tells me about how if there's a liberal talking politics in the room, he has to leave.
Oh, right.
And you know, do not think for a second, and Dad, if you're listening, do not think I'm singling you out.
No.
I talk to a lot of conservatives who feel the exact same way, and I'm a little perplexed by it, and even just listening to Brian right now, it sounds like Brian kind of is the same way.
I'm not as bad anymore.
Not as bad, right? That's true.
Because of the show. Like, I'll start getting into something.
You have to research.
And I instantly, the knee jerk and pull back, and I want to throw a fist through the screen, and
he wants to rip the monitor off of the computer and throw it right out of the glass block window.
Like a Frisbee, so that it just shatters.
Like a discus.
Oh, one of those clay pigeons that are launched.
Oh, that's a good one. So you really launch that.
So, but I instantly think for 1 second, I say, well, what about the audience? So I do this. I torture myself for you folks. This is how much I care.
So he tortures himself. Me, on the other hand, I'm kind of an oddball because there's 2 things. Number one, I used to be a flaming, bleeding heart liberal for many years. And number 2, I'm bipolar severely. No, I would go so far as to say split personality.
Oh.
And so I can say, let me put on my liberal cap.
Oh,
and completely
flip
the switch
Yeah.
and go full on. That's why I play devil's advocate so well.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, let me flip the switch. And what would I say or think or believe if I were a liberal?
And if you were Kerry's friend and you just met him and you were hanging out talking with him and he did this to you, you may get mad at him because you think he believes what he's saying.
Total
But
liberal.
he doesn't.
Yeah.
Right.
What it is I'm just... I have to get in that role. I'm playing the role. It's called method acting. So anyway, we got to get to this article. 7 things that I can do that my black son can't. He gives a little bit of a background on. Terrible. Okay, so number 1, I can walk through a store without being followed. And there's some of these things. There's a lot of truth to them in a lot of places, and maybe it is racist if you are a store owner and you only follow the black kids or black men or black women, whatever, through your store because you're profiling them and you're like, okay, this guy's definitely going to steal.
If there's 3 black Utes and their pants are down to their knees and they've got gang paraphernalia,
and
they're loud.
They have a tattoo of a teardrop right under their eye.
I may be very, very suspicious. But if it was a white dude
who
looked like that, I would do the same.
Nothing you said anything about their skin color.
Oh.
I mean, except for the fact you said if 3 black kids...
Utes.
If they walked in... Now, if 2... white Utes and 1 black Ute walked in and fit that exact same profile,
I would still be weary of all 3 of them.
And that's the point.
Yep, that's just
so. But he points out that there was a high-profile instance where in Macy's in New York City, this actor Robert Brown was handcuffed, humiliated, and of course that's subjective, and accused of committing credit card fraud after buying an expensive watch at the store.
Okay, now I did not look up this story, but my intuition said...
Your racist intuition.
My racist intuition said, whoa, hold on. He was accused of credit card fraud after buying an expensive watch. He doesn't say how much the watch cost.
Well, it says he's an actor, which means it may have been extremely expensive.
So let's just guess and say it was a $50,000 watch.
Which very well could be.
Now, if I used my credit card to buy anything expensive...
I see where you're going with this.
My bank would instantly notify and say,
I'd love to know the full story because I could totally imagine that given the personality type, if he was rejected, he could cause a scene. And let me tell you something. Places like Macy's don't like scenes.
No.
Do not like scenes.
Now, are we being cynical here? Or are we just being real? And the reason why I'm not trying to be cynical, but when a lib who's racist himself is talking or writing or giving his personal...
No, he's not getting his way. He wanted to buy a watch with for $50,000, let's say.
Well, no, I'm talking about the lib writing this article.
Oh, the guy writing the article.
Yeah, the guy writing this article, you know he's a lib for one, because he's got a racist title. 7 things that I can do that my black son can't. That's racist in itself.
And you know what? This is child abuse. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so I've got to be cynical. I've got to be on edge. And unless he gives me details...
Which he didn't.
Like 2 weeks ago, or 2 shows ago, when we went through the list that a girl wrote and said, and there will be I will not interject any opinion whatsoever.
Oh, come on.
And the whole thing was opinion.
And didn't we point out in several episodes that if you start the sentence with, I'm not racist, but you're about to drop a racist bomb.
Bomb.
Same thing with if you say, I'm not gay, but anyway, you're about to say something that is
Right.
All right, so anyway.
So number 2, he talks. I thought this was about his son, but number 2, go ahead.
I can succeed without it being attributed to my race. And I had to read in a little bit of detail what the heck he was talking about. So when my wife, who is black,
He has to make that apparent.
received her acceptance letter from Boston College, a peer told her she must have gotten it due to affirmative action, effectively ruining the experience of receiving the letter.
When
So-
I succeed, people assume I've earned it. Okay,
Because he's white, right?
This is all all conjecture. This is all opinion. This is a straw man. This could be completely made up. When a peer told her, a peer. So is that another student at the college?
Can I point out
Is
the
that a-
biggest, giant issue here?
The elephant in the room?
Yes.
Okay.
The elephant in the room. He's pretty much pointing out that affirmative action is causing racism.
And by the way, folks, affirmative action is
completely racist.
Absolutely.
It is called what Ronald Reagan called the soft bigotry of low expectations.
Yep.
Affirmative action is effectively saying that black people are dumber than whites, they're less capable of whites, and some would argue are the victims of white privilege.
Right. And just like a school, this either this week or last week, a school wants to is proposing to allow any black student for the entire year that feels that Ferguson and these killings have affected them for the entire year, regardless, as long as they show up to school, regardless of anything, they should get at least a C.
No matter what.
No matter what, because of the level of stress that's being proposed. And who does that hurt? Who does that hurt?
Yeah, they're going to go on to the next level, not being prepared for, they could be in Calculus 1. And next year, when they get into Calculus 2, they're going to need to use what they learned from Calculus 1, or else they're going to struggle.
But they didn't learn anything from Calculus 1 because they were told they didn't have to do anything.
Because they're going to get a C. And let me tell you something. Put yourself back in the child in school. If they tell you that no matter what, you're going to get at least a C, pretty much all learning and studying will cease.
Your brain will shut it down. Oh, yeah.
Why not?
I'm out. I'm out
to
to lunch.
C anyway. So the soft bigotry of low expectations is affirmative action. You're pretty much saying blacks are stupid, blacks are inferior to whites, so we're going to need a law,
a government law,
forcing all businesses, schools, particularly schools, to accept blacks with inferior test scores because of the fact that they have a different color skin.
Do you know what the highest failure and dropout rate in college universities in America are? Universities in America are
Can
the
I guess?
highest.
Can I guess?
Highest.
Do I get
dropout.
2 guesses? 2 guesses?
You get 1 guess.
1 guess.
There's only one at the top.
Purple.
You gonna guess?
Am I racist if I say black?
No, it's a fact.
Oh, okay. Well, and why
the
would that be?
highest dropout rate is black male.
Well, it's because the professors are clearly racist.
Either that or the public schools have not prepped them enough, and that affirmative action says go to college, we'll pay for it.
Well, not only that, but the acceptance of blacks into college is at a lower threshold due to affirmative action.
Right.
So anyway, all right, so number 3. I learned about my ancestors' history in school. This one it set me into orbit. This one set me into orbit.
Oh, this is Louis the 14th.
Okay, so my first initial reaction when I read that was, he's talking about the fact that he knows his ancestors far back because his ancestors weren't involved in slavery, whereas the blacks' ancestors, if you ever do genealogy, which I have for my family, if you get to a certain point where you just can't find anymore. Most Americans stop at the immigrant who came to America.
So you're saying most black Americans would wind up stopping at the boat, the slavery?
No.
Like, you're not going back to Africa.
No. They stop at 1860.
Oh, the freedom!
1865,
right.
Because there was really no paperwork whatsoever for genealogy. Whereas in my case, I'll give you, well, in our case, in Brian's case, we can go back to pretty much when they came over to America on the boat, because at that point, I'm talking about the immigrants from whatever country our ancestors came from, because like our German ancestors,
right?
They were speaking and writing in English when they got here. But if you get to the German immigrant and you say, okay, those guys came over in a boat, their parents are still over in Germany. I don't speak German. I don't understand the German writing. I'm stopping there.
Right.
I'm not going any further, and it would take a lot of effort to do so. Whereas if you're a black American, you're pretty much dead in the water at 1865 and earlier, because of they didn't keep the records in slavery. So that's what I was thinking when I originally wrote that.
That's interesting. I didn't think that, but go ahead.
No, that's what I was thinking. So I read. So the details to that statement was, I can tell you all about Louis the 14, Socrates, and the Magna Carta. Whoa! I had to stop there. I'm like, this guy's ancestors. This guy's a genealogical genius.
He could trace it back to Socrates.
And Socrates, we're talking about thousands of years ago, or is it hundreds or thousands?
Thousands.
Socrates. Amazing, right? This guy clearly doesn't know the definition of ancestors.
Okay, Louis XIV, Socrates, and the Magna Carta. How obscure are all three of those things just in general?
I don't think anybody's tracing their ancestors back to any of those people.
Go out on the street and ask any white person what the Magna Carta is or was.
Or if they know their ancestors back to the 1100s.
And have they ever heard of Socrates?
And then it says, but I always wondered when we would finally learn about African history beyond pharaohs and pyramids, which, by the way, there is a debate as to whether or not the pharaohs of ancient Egypt were white, black, brown, or whatever.
Right.
But anyway, the subject never came up. This guy is completely ignorant. I have no idea what the hell he's talking about on number 3.
So number 4, I saw that and I said, "What?"
Did that one make?
I crossed my eyes and had to smack myself to uncross them.
Right. So number 4 is, I can lose my temper in traffic.
Okay, now hold on, stop there. You can lose your temper in traffic, yet your black son can't?
Yeah, my first question is why? To what degree are you losing your temper in traffic, and why does you being white make that acceptable?
Anybody can lose their temper at any given time they want. They have control over their own facilities. Well, they should.
Oh, you're saying that his black son. What is he, incapable of losing his?
Because he's black.
He has no temper. He has no temper whatsoever. Okay, so this was obviously a grammatical error.
I think.
So I'm going to get past the logical grammatical error.
Well, these are the small nuances that if you're going to write an article like this, you've got to be detailed as possible to show facts.
This is just bad grammar. Okay, so he wrote in the details, that is, once an acquaintance who got into a confrontation while driving told me how scared she was of the other driver, describing him as a big black guy. When I get heated, no one attributes it to my race. Now hold on a second.
This is all BS.
This is all BS. Whoa. Here's where I'm having trouble. He said, when I get heated, no one attributes it to my race, but nobody's attributing this big black guy as getting heated to his race. All she said was that she was scared because he was a big black guy.
It was a big, giant white guy that was running after me.
Who was the guy that said who was that? Was that Jon Stewart? No, it wasn't. Somebody said if a big white guy covered in tattoos was walking down the street, I would cross the street, and they said that in response to somebody else being crossing the street when a black guy's walking down the street.
No, yeah, it definitely was. It was a conservative Tea Party member that said it.
Yeah, if I might have been Alan West. Hey, if I see a
I'm
white
thinking
guy,
of Alan West right now. That's what I'm
if
thinking
I see a white guy on the same side of the street as me walking towards me, he's covered with like face tattoos and just looking all kind of like straight out of prison for whatever reason. So anyway, so this number 4 is out of control nuts. I mean, once an acquaintance who got into a confrontation while driving told me how scared she was of the other driver, describing him as a big black guy. Okay, so he's black. I mean, what if he was a big white guy?
Hold on. He made this up. I can't.
Okay, yeah.
I have such a huge problem with people painting pictures of people that may or may not exist.
Yeah. Okay, so he's talking anecdotal evidence here.
Right.
I don't know. I guess somebody reading this is going to be like, yeah, dude, I knew somebody who kind of had a same situation where they described the person that they were scared of as a black person.
Well,
so anyway, we move on to 5.
Here's another one. This is just as ridiculous as all the rest of them.
I can loiter in wealthy neighborhoods. Let me tell you something. I am a white man, and if I go to I'm thinking, because, I've done some landscaping in my time. It's a nice neighborhood. Yeah. When I'm there to work, that's cool. If I'm there to loiter, probably not going to get away with it for very long.
What if you showed up to somewhere in Westchester, or I don't know, some of the even richer neighborhoods?
There's some new subdivisions in Delhi that I've done work in.
Okay. Say you showed up there with your buddies, and you're all around the time when you were skateboarding, and you all showed up skateboarding in the streets and on the sidewalks, and then just sat there.
There would be
just
some
sat
people, or even just skated and didn't move on. Like I wasn't. It was clear that I didn't have a destination.
You were skating in the same vicinity, and we ain't doing.
You were there skating, or maybe we stopped skating and we sat there and loitered.
Right.
I ain't gonna fly. What is he? I can loiter and what? What white people are loitering in wealthy neighborhoods?
Okay, so and the other problem I have with this is the answer or the description he gives underneath that.
No one has ever called the cops on me to report a suspicious person. My wife can't say the same. So his wife is black, by the way.
But I thought this story was the things my black son can't do. 2 of them, he's just 3 of them. He said it's about his wife.
Well, I'm going to defend him here and say when he said my wife can't say the same, what he's also saying is in the future my son won't be able to say the same.
I'm just saying keep it straight. Your guy's off the rails.
If I was loitering and I was young, let me put it to you this way. If it was clear to the residents of the area that I didn't belong there, and by that I mean, a lot of these neighborhoods, you do know your neighbors. You know their children.
Right.
And if you see their children in the neighborhood, you're going to be like, oh, look, there's Bobby or whatever.
And if somebody's hanging around the neighborhood that you've never seen before, I don't live in a wealthy neighborhood. I don't. The average house around here probably costs anywhere from $80,000 to $110,000. And that's not very expensive, and they are older homes. And I live next to 2 crackpots that ruin the whole street.
And by crackpots, he doesn't mean
I'm
that
being
they're
very
doing drugs.
nice. I'm being very. They might be.
They may be, but we don't know about that.
There and every once in a while, there's a beat up rust bucket, some kind of clunker junker car that just. I mean, this happened twice in a year. It just shows up on the street.
Okay.
And it's there for a day, and then it's gone.
Okay.
And I've never seen it again. And I'll look out there, and I say to myself, huh?
Who is that?
That's nobody's car we know of, because I know all the cars on my street.
Right, and when it comes to people stealing copper out of houses, you got to be a little leery of random vans or trucks or whatever.
That, and I don't want random vehicles being parked on the street in front of my house. I worry about safety of my family, my kids. There's kids that play out on the sidewalk in the streets. We don't need nobody riffraff around here.
Yeah, and I would say that, let's say we got an all-black neighborhood, and they're all apartments, and they're all it's just a bad neighborhood, whatever. even then, there's going to be a certain amount of people, especially the ones that live really close by, that you're going to know who they are. You're going to know if they have children and how many children, if they're married, and what they all look like. And sometimes even if you live in an apartment, if there's somebody standing in the hallway that you've never seen before, and all they're doing is leaning up against the wall, I imagine you're probably going to say, "Hey, can I help you?
What's going on?
Can I help you?
Yeah.
Are you looking for somebody? Maybe I can help you with something."
Right.
Is it because their skin color? I mean, if they're
they can
white,
be white, brown, and if somebody's walking down the street with a turban on.
Woo! Here comes the weeds. We just drove off the path there. Okay, so then the next one is I can complain about racism. I didn't understand it, so I have to read the details. When I point out that black people are incarcerated at alarming rates, or largely forced to send their children to underperforming schools, or face systemic discrimination when searching for jobs and housing, no one accuses me of playing the race card. Okay, let me tell you something about playing the race card. It is either not happening or blatantly obvious to us. Period. And if you're playing the race card, you deserve to be called out on it. Okay, so he said, so number 6 was, again, I can complain about racism. We are complaining about racism right now, and we are not playing the race card.
No, of course not.
If you are playing the race card, you're not complaining about racism. You're being a racist by using the race card.
Yeah, this is
ridiculous. This guy doesn't understand racism.
No.
Period.
At all.
So number 7. I can count on being met on my own terms. What? What does that even mean?
Yeah, I started reading this while you were talking about the other. I didn't make it this far.
Oh, okay. When I first read this, I had to read it several times because I was like, what does that mean? I can count on being met on my own terms. So in the details, he wrote, if I'm being treated poorly, I don't stop and think about whether it's due to my race. But unless we somehow make a giant leap forward, my son will always have to wonder. Well, that's because you're teaching him that.
Yeah.
You're teaching him to wonder about whether or not him being treated poorly is attributed to his race.
Right.
Stop teaching him that stuff. So
Absolutely.
Then he goes on. Recently, I became a father for the 2nd time. My daughter, only 3 months old, will grow up to face many of the same challenges as my son. On top of the extra ones that come with being a woman, the struggle for equal pay, the catcalling, the constant threat of sexual assault.
I'm glad I didn't make it this far.
Yeah, I mean, Brian's raising 2 girls.
I'm losing it right now. It's under my skin right now.
I know. I don't want to give my children a complex about all this. Yes, you're doing it.
But you're doing it. Yes.
You are absolutely doing this, and you are going to put them at a lifelong disadvantage by giving them this complex. I just want you all to know that. If you are black or you are a white person raising a black child, or raising a black child in any way, shape, or form, listen to us. Stop giving them a complex. Stop teaching them that unless we make some sort of a giant leap forward, we've been making this giant leap forward, or these small leaps forward that we've been making for the past 60 years, has just been erased by Obama and all of his communist minions who are just trying to agitate the blacks to vote for them and to give them power.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're listening right now and you are black, you are being manipulated by manipulators who are just using you to further and enhance their own power. And if you teach your children that we need to make a giant leap forward, or else we're going to wonder whether poor treatment is due to their race, stop it.
Forget
it's
about
not.
it.
It's not. As a white person who deals with all races every day, I'm telling you, it's not. I'm not. People are not being treated poorly by white people specifically because of their race.
Well,
it's just not happening.
I even played that sound clip earlier with Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece, where she said how that must feel to be a white person voting for Obama And now he's calling you a racist.
And you guys don't want to hear this, but because of white guilt, which is a very powerful and real phenomenon, you're probably getting treated especially well, and being treated with kid gloves, and being allowed to do things that are either social faux pas or just flat out illegal. And I mean, Obama's proving this over and over.
Right.
Because you're black. And the whites are like, well, that's white guilt. That is white guilt.
Who's going to impeach Obama?
Well, we're taking impeachment off the
table. It's not even on the table. And the reason why? Could you imagine in the history books what they would say about you?
This is a quote, by the way. Brian is quoting
the history. If you were the first, white man, impeached the first black president, that would be attributed to your legacy for life.
Yeah, I believe you're quoting Rush Limbaugh, who said that the Republicans are not going to even consider impeaching him because they will forever be branded as the people that impeached the first black president.
And Obama is just amazed at how easy this has been for him.
He knows.
Yes.
He knows that there is no way a single solitary person in any power having the means to do so
and Mark Levin
want to be the guy who was the first, the guy who impeached the first black president.
Right. And Mark Levin said this week he was exploding on how Obama is just single-handedly turning our entire police and national police departments, turning them into government police departments and starting to move things to where he can put a hold and a lockdown on everybody if he wanted to on a federal level.
Well, there's always the martial law, which has been part of the Constitution since day one.
Right.
But I mean, there's a very specific.
I mean, when the President of the United States is advocating for local law enforcement to be mandated to wear video cameras on their chest.
Well, what do you think of that? Because there's a lot of reason why I think that's fine. It protects them.
I don't. Well, I don't.
Okay.
I mean, I like the video cameras on cop cars because it's neat. Because I like to see what happens.
You like to see the video.
I don't mind that. But the problem I'm having is that they want the cameras not for the safety of the cop. They're claiming the cop's actions warrant the camera for the safety of the people.
Oh, so you're just doing it on principle. Because the camera itself, let's just talk.
The
just
physical
technology.
camera itself is fine. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But when you have the federal government stepping in to states and local levels, trying to mandate certain rules and regulations, that's illegal. They can't.
I don't like the roadblock you're throwing up because at the end of the day, the camera on the cop is probably a good thing. You just don't want it to appear as though it's being done because the cops are so crooked.
Because they are.
No, I mean, if the appearance is that they're crooked.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry, if the belief is that it's crooked, then by saying, well, we're going to put cameras on you then, you're pretty much sending the message to not only the cops, but also everybody else, like all civilians, that we believe that they're corrupt or bad.
Right.
And that we're gonna fix them and their bad behavior by putting these cameras on.
Ever see Training Day?
I saw it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He needed a camera.
He needed a mic on him at all times, broadcasting through iHeartRadio, live for all to hear.
No joke.
Wow.
Hey, before we run out of here, I wanted to touch on something real quick that that everybody needs to know. And I read into this a little bit further so that I could get a good feel on this. But apparently, CNN is pushing Jeb Bush is the clear Republican presidential frontrunner.
Oh, they are pushing that so hard.
Surging
it's everybody
to the front of the potential GOP pack following his announcement this week that he's actively exploring a bid. New CNN poll results found he takes nearly 1/4. That's almost 25% of the Republicans surveyed in the new nationwide poll, putting him 10 points ahead the closest competitor, Governor Chris Christie, who tallied 13%. Well, they had a link to the poll, and it's a PDF, and I started going through it and looking at it, and there's some things that I liked, I didn't like about it. I mean, a poll's a poll, okay, whatever. Well, something that was disturbing is that I feel like they are pushing this poll in whatever way they want it to go, because polls can be manipulated. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the way, what kind of questions you're asking.
They claim they polled 1,000 people.
Which they could have.
And out of that 1,000 people, when you get into the poll, they're talking about 400 Republicans. So I don't know what the other people are. Anyways, I digress. So don't believe the polls, don't listen to the polls, and certainly don't listen to CNN. But here's what really disturbed me. During this poll, they asked the people, if you had to choose, would you rather see a Republican Party nominated to the presidential candidate who agrees with you on every issue that matters to you, but may not be able to beat the Democrat candidate? Okay, you get that? So would you rather see a Republican who believes what you believe?
There's a lot of...
Right. It's confusing. Can you imagine being on the phone and hearing this?
But there's a lot of...
wiggle room.
No, there's a lot of... what's the word I'm looking for? It's they're kind of... They're throwing something out there, an opinion.
Okay, well, this is what's going. This will get you when you see the numbers.
They're throwing their own little opinion out there.
Right.
They're saying, "Look, we know you Tea Party guys want this, this, and this, but we also are telling you. We're literally telling you those people that your guy is unelectable."
Right.
Because we're never going to elect a racist like you. Is what they're trying to say.
Right. So would you rather see a Republican Party nominee who agrees with you but may not win, or a Republican who doesn't agree with you but will win?
Man, they are making a huge assumption there.
This blew my mind. If any of this is remotely true.
Well, if it's disturbing you, it must be that a majority would rather have
2% had no opinion.
Okay.
The candidate agrees with you on your issues but may lose. 29%. Candidate doesn't agree with you but can beat the Democrat. 69%.
Yeah, that's pretty disappointing. Well, here's the thing. I don't blame them for selecting that, because
this is awesome for them and their agenda.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, this is part and parcel.
This is music to their ears, because now they're going to use this against us by putting up a Democrat light and putting an R on his name.
So
that's where Jeb Bush comes in.
This is
a conspiracy.
Yes. Jeb Bush comes into this, and who else comes into this?
Chris Christie.
Mitt Romney. They're trying to say Mitt Romney and Jeb Bush may be the Republicans' VP and P.
Here's the problem I have with is Mitt Romney a bait and switch? Because
could very well be.
No, we went to his rallies
right
in 2012, And all of his talking points were very right-wing.
Yep.
And they were very pro, or I should say acceptable to the Tea Party.
And I knew that we would be in this era. I knew that this is what we would be looking at if Obama was reelected. So in all reality, and even Glenn Beck and some of the hardcore Tea Party, even us, if we knew the full details of Mitt Romney that have kind of eased out over and over and over, I still would have voted for him hands down and dealt with it in the end.
Right. So here's what that poll's doing then, and I think this is what you're getting at. Everybody knows we're going to vote for the R. I don't care if it's Chris Christie. I don't care if it's Jeb Bush. If he is the Republican nominee, I vote for I'll vote for Communist Light over Soviet Union.
Right. Well, there's a best-selling author by the name of Brad Thor. I don't.
Hold on. Can you hold that thought for just a second? Because I wanted to point out what they're doing.
Okay.
With that, what they're trying to do is say that you need to make your nominee the Communist Light.
So Brad Thor says,
okay.
If Jeb Bush is nominee, I'll never vote Republican again.
Is he a conservative?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know what is up with right-wing voters. I call them the right-wing low information.
Well, the problem is that you may want the perfect man. You may be looking. I'll tell you what. If they brought up Ronald Reagan, and they didn't know who he was, it might not be the perfect man.
They wouldn't vote for him.
Because there were a lot of things that they may not, it just wasn't perfect enough.
And here's another really stupid phenomenon about the Republican Party. They're so into rule of law and proper procedure.
Right.
And just things being done a certain way that they view Republican candidates as being men or women in a line, like they're waiting for a ride or they're waiting for Black Friday to open up. And if there's 3 guys in line and for whatever reason, the first guy, he didn't make it in. He fell into a manhole. And before they let the second guy in, he doesn't return. Whoever's second in line is going to be who they select. It's always next in line.
Okay, what is a manhole, and why would the manhole cover be off it?
Well, I'm just saying there has to be a reason why he didn't become president. Okay, and I'll give you a perfect example. Back in the primary, before George Bush was elected, he was in a really tough battle in the primary with John McCain.
Right.
And when he ended up winning, George Bush did. He became president, went on for 8 years, and when he was done, we had another primary. We had all these candidates. Some of them looked like shoe-ins. I think a lot of the media was really pushing hard for Giuliani, which, by the way, that just proves that the media doesn't have any say in who becomes the...
I don't know. Once John McCain was the darling there for a minute.
No. Do you know why? He was next in line.
Oh.
Nobody gave John McCain... I'm saying nobody in the media.
Right.
When the primary... When Iowa was just about to happen, the Iowa caucus is the first thing that kicks off the primary season. Everybody in every major media outlet was like, Giuliani this, Giuliani that. Why? Because they're all from New York, and in their world, the whole world is New York.
Right.
And because they know Giuliani, they like Giuliani, and he's a Republican, and he has to be next. And he was the hero during 9/11. So it was all about Giuliani. Well, what they didn't realize was the Republican Party is what the Republican Party does. They always will be what they are.
Next in line.
Well,
was not Giuliani.
McCain came up short, which means he's next in line.
Right.
All of a sudden, the primaries started going, and it was like McCain, and he was just plowing through everything.
Right.
And it became clear to us, oh, it's the next in line theory.
Right.
And here's what happens. If Mitt Romney runs, I'm telling you right now, he's going to win the primary. I said it a couple weeks ago.
Oh, no, I believe
And it's because Republicans do this stupid thing where they just kind of blindly go, oh, who's next in line? I got to vote here in the primary.
Just get it. Just get it.
Well, I'm looking at all these names. Yeah, Mitt Romney's next. It's like somebody took a bunch of names in a hat and said, pick the guy who you think is next in line. Oh,
wow.
it's Mitt Romney. He's next in line.
So I got a quick sound clip of Alan West.
Okay.
He's on Sean Hannity's show on Fox News.
Okay.
And Hannity said, what do you think of this whole Jeb Bush thing?
Oh, my God.
So here's Alan West.
Well, I think when you look at by the time we get to 2016, we're going to have a country that's $20 trillion in debt. We're going to have a massive bureaucratic, administrative, regulatory state. And the last thing that we need to see is a big government progressive Republican running against a bigger government progressive socialist Democrat. So the Republican Party has to be able to make a clear delineation between their vision and their goals and objectives to turn around the fundamental transformation of America. And I think the challenge for Governor Bush is going to be his policies on illegal immigration and also Common Core.
Was that Alan West? Or was that Ben Carson?
That's Alan West.
Okay. Because
Why?
his voice sounded a little...
Well, it was the audio sound
Okay.
clip. Why Alan West is not the front runner on just about anything conservative is just beyond me. Why he's not... Why these people don't push for, and I know everybody's going to say, oh, you're trying to push a black man in there because Obama's, but no, it's not. And they're going to play the race card. They're going to do it.
Yep.
They're going to say, well, Alan West
is
is black.
Are you accusing them of playing the race card
Before
because
they play.
they have a racial grievance and they're black?
Right.
Because that's what they have to worry about.
Right. And they're upset that a clean and articulate man named Alan West can articulate and does believe these things that he says to his core. These are his core beliefs. He doesn't need a script to say what he just said because he knows like you and I, we sit here for 3 hours and we talk about our core beliefs. We don't need a script to tell you what we're thinking.
Right.
Obama needs a script because he has no core beliefs. It's whatever the Communist Party gives him.
I got to see what I got to say next here.
So yeah, so this whole thing with Jeb Bush, bro, I'm gonna just tell you right now. I am going to be very, very torn if Jeb Bush is the nominee. I'm telling you right now, I'll take Mitt Romney over Jeb Bush. If it is the dynasty of families running America does not happen.
I don't think Jeb Bush would beat Mitt Romney. Jeb Bush would be the nominee, possibly, if Mitt Romney doesn't run. There's no way, the way the Republican Party is, that they are going... And keep in mind...
They will never allow a Tea Party member to win that. I just... Tea Party backed... Tea Party member.
You know what we need to do? Because the Democrats, they do shenanigans.
Oh, yes.
We need to convince them that they're going to win by a landslide.
If they get a Tea Party guy.
They got to get a Tea Party guy. And what they'll do is they'll cross over during the primary and make sure that they primary in a Tea Party guy.
Because they will... Any Democrat will destroy a Tea Party member. Oh, yeah. That's what we need them to convince the media and the libs to believe.
Right.
Whew. Okay. Hey, did you hear about babies contracting venereal diseases from a ultra-Orthodox Jewish circumcision?
No.
That was big news this week.
That was big news?
So the Drudge Report, it's the first page.
So what does that mean? I mean, Is it an attack against the Jewish religion?
They're saying
What is that?
They're saying that the guy who does the circumcision, I don't know who that is.
So one guy spread a whole bunch of VD.
Apparently, the blood from circumcision comes in contact with him, and he has
VD.
Yeah, apparently.
Yikes!
So, this story. Why did I bring this up? Because it's liberals that love putting this stuff out. 4 babies in a year? What? There's something else to this. Look at the mother. If a mother has VD or herpes or anything like that, if she is currently having an episode, when she gives birth, the baby can get it.
That's true, but how many? 4?
4!
And they're not related. They're not related.
They're all from the same woman. No. They're not related. 4 random in all of America.
But the circumcision for Jewish kids is 13.
Well,
Christian is
apparently this
when they're born.
Ultra Orthodox Jewish thing happens at birth.
Oh, because normal
is
Jewish,
13.
Yeah, they get it chopped off at 13. It's like a chopodictomy. Nah, it's just anyway.
And something else. Did you hear that science has just now found that they can take the skin off your arm, remove the stem cells from it, and create a sperm and an egg.
So what are we doing here? Why would they do that? Why would they?
Technology.
But what purpose would it serve? Why would you go through the trouble of creating a sperm and an egg from a skin cell?
Because in the article they say that they're trying to help people who can't conceive.
But there's lots of... Well, first of all, there's tons of sperm out there.
Well, they're saying it's science, man. We're moving forward.
Oh, you're saying you want your own children. So you got a guy who produces absolutely no sperm. They could create the sperm for him.
Yes. And his wife, who produces no eggs.
Okay. So is this a good thing? Are we manipulating nature?
If you put it together and it doesn't work out, are you allowed to end it?
Well, it's not since it's created artificially. It doesn't have a soul.
This is where the zombies come into play,
That's
baby.
right. So it has it's a zombie.
Yes. Woo! Okay, well, I just got the heads up from CIS.
Did you?
Yep. The kickoff for the...
And if you're listening, Melissa, we're
football
we're
game.
We're moving.
Yep. We sure do need to go. That's the wife. Okay, everybody.
We're missing the football game.
All right, have a good evening and good week, and we will see you next week.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year until then. Test these tests.